and welcome to Elvenhome, and to this edition, which is after a month off, whilst I went off and had a very nice holiday up in Orkney in the far north of Great Britain. It's a beautiful place. I love going up there. But I came back refreshed and ready to get on with things. In particular, getting on with the build of the hotel, and also some information about, whilst I was away, I had a chance to think about what I intend to be doing and the main area for development between now and Christmas. So let's get on with the video, and I'll speak to you again at the end. Well, it's time to return to the build of the hotel. The position I've got so far is that I've built the walls on three sides of the hotel, built the lift lobby with the revolving door. The porch has yet to be built, and the light block paint has been applied to the clear plastic that provides the glass essentially for the windows. And I had already cut out and stuck on the windows for the start of the rear wall, which is in three sections, partly because cutting out all of those windows in one piece of card, I thought it was almost certain that I would foul up on the almost last window and have to start all over again. So it was better to do it in sections. But also the middle section has a fire escape attached to it. And I also have had some idea, which I've now I think worked out, that if I can, I would like to be able to slide the middle section in and out to provide access in the event that I need to change lights, all the kind, rather than just trying to work down from the top. And I'm also getting close to finalising the design for the roof and how that will set on, but more of that in another video. When I came to, I was just about to start marking up this piece of card, which is obviously the central section, when it occurred to me that I really did need to finalise the design of the fire escape, because that was plainly crucial. I had in mind what it would look like, which would be two sets of windows, the doors coming down here, and then stairs between each floor with a frame fire escape on there. But it wasn't, and that I hadn't drawn on my master drawing, which really just had the design of the back of the building. I had sourced various sorts of I-beam and H-beam in stripped styrene, and really did need to work out how that was going to work. And in doing that, it caused me to change the design of this part of the card. If I move this out of the way, you may just be able to make out that when I originally drew this, I drew in the two lines of windows that are meant to be there. This is the ground floor. This has no windows or anything there. These are the fire escape doors. And obviously these are the ladders leading down from each landing, and the frame would sit around there. Once you start actually putting pieces of H-beam and I-beam onto this plan and seeing how the thing will look, I realised that this set of windows just wouldn't be right. It would have, firstly, they'd have the frame round them. There's nothing unusual in that, except they wouldn't be able to get out of these windows onto the fire escape, which might be a bit galling if you were trapped in there burning alive and couldn't get out onto the fire escape. So no windows in there. And then I started to think about how I was actually going to make everything fit together. I had a sort of loose idea in my head. And so what I've been doing is beginning to build the frame, and I'm still at an early stage here, which is why I'm doing this quick bit of recording. And then I'll stop and finish building the fire escape and come back. But I can now show you perhaps in a bit better detail how everything is going to fit together. The first thing I've had to do was to build the frame, which I have done. This is a combination of two sizes of H-beam. If I show you here, you can see the H, and that's H-beam as well. And the first one, this was very fiddly. The plastic did not want to stick together. That's going to sit about there on the card. And I built the first of these, making sure that each one of these lines up with the line. So the door opens out onto the top of the H-beam. I then strapped the two uprights with masking tape on top of the uprights here, so that I could position the cross members exactly to match the one below, because plainly we do not want people, there we go, we do not want that to be off center one to the other. So that now gives me my frame. I tried to source all over the kind of open mesh flooring that you normally see on these, but at end gauge you just can't get that. It's too fine. It really wouldn't support itself. I thought about using fencing, but that doesn't really work because I've got to be able to cut a hole out that will allow the ladders to go through. So in the end, I've decided on having a solid floor, and I've cut the first floor out. If I show you this, it needs to have a tab on each side to fit into the I-beam. So if I bring it here, that fits into there to give us our floor, and you'll see, fits in rather well, it's rather snug, that I've started to mark this up. This section here is the door. I will cut out about halfway there a hole, because that's where the ladder's going to go down, and the ladder will actually land on the floor below about here, but give enough room to be able to turn around. So the ladder will land down onto here, and then around the edges there will be this railing. All of this is going to be painted in black, so the fact that I've this is left over from when I did the railings for the lift lobby. Those will be sitting on there, and a piece at each end to include it. The ladders, I've now cut my ladder. This is the length of my ladder or stairs that are going down, and I also have, and these are all Plastruct pieces. I'll put the numbers up on the screen now that I used for the plaster. Actually, I'll put it in the description below. So I now need to cut these to be the right length. That will sit on there either side, and then each one of those will essentially come down from the floor, looking about like that, if I get it right, which should be fun. So we'll see how that goes. That looks a bit long actually, I'm not in the right place. There we go, there. And we'll see how we go once all that's put together. So what I'm going to go and do now is spend the rest of today building the frame. Once I've got the frame done, then I will mark this card up, because I can position everything I'll position it in the plan here, and then I've got to do it all in reverse, because as you know I mark up on the back. And the last thing, which I mentioned before, is that I think I've worked out how I can allow this to slide in and out, and actually it solves a problem of how you get these three pieces to stick together well enough when they go, and it is essentially nothing cleverer than using a piece of this I-beam. So what I'm going to do is the I-beam will sit there, and then I'll be able to and there'll be one on the other side, and then this will simply slide in place. That will also give me a quite nice decoration, because this is going to be in dark green, separating the building through those sections. And because I'm doing that was one of the reasons I decided that this frame will move in a bit more. So the frame will sit about there with one row of windows down here, and then the exit doors coming out from there. So that's where we are. Let's get off and get that done, and the next section I hope will show the completed fire escape. While I was away on holiday, I was able to just pause and think about what the next pieces of work will be actually on the layout, as opposed to scratch building the hotel. And I realised that actually my intention, which was to try and complete this section here before moving on to High Elven, would probably take quite a while, because what is intended to go in here is certainly a police station, and I can't really see a police station that I would use from a kit, so that's probably a scratch build. I think I've said that we also need to have, I think a post office needs to go in, And I was thinking of trying to fit in there somewhere a school, a kind of church school. But all of those, if they're going to go into this space, are going to need to be scratch built. Now, scratch builds can take a long time. And I don't really want to be just doing scratch building and not seeing the layout itself develop. And I can't really make it develop unless I get on with something. And that something, turning around to here, let me just move my light, is building High Elven. Operationally, I really want to get on with building High Elven because being able to run the trains properly up into here and possibly do some shunting and things will make this a more interesting layout to operate. And I am going to try, when I build this, to include and use the Dapol Easy Shunt system so that I will actually be able to shunt things whilst we're up here. That should be fun. So I need to get on with building High Elven, and I also need to settle in my mind how I'm going to construct the baseboard on which it's going to sit. Not least because plainly I've got to have a means of getting in underneath in the event that I need to get to a point motor that's not working or a derailment. Now, of course, nothing has derailed around these curves in since it was laid. Not anything ever once. But the moment I put the upper section on, you can be sure they'll be toppling off the tracks left, right and centre. I need to work that out really. I don't really want to put one big board on here. I think that I just don't like the idea of that. And laying this on, which is the reason I've done this, is to help me see what needs to be really hard wood, because there's going to be point motors screwing into the bottom of it. I think all the points and the point motors are free from the track, but the design may well change once I actually see what space I've got. I'm pretty certain I've got more than enough space, and most of the point motors will be in the void rather than I think the only one that's near track is this one. I think what I have in mind is to get a triangular piece of wood that will essentially sit under all of here and contain the track, because I can use the shaper sheet that I use to construct the cliff front at the other end of the layout then construct the town and the hillsides, but also to think then about how I provide access somewhere around here to be able to get in and get to anything at the back. I think that's better than trying to have a single piece which would be lifted whole on or off. I did think about having a drop down front. I might do that as well, I'll see. But I think it is time for High Elven to join the layout, and that will actually be quite good because that will then give me both the roundy if you like, and also an end-to-end with the branch line running from Weathertop all the way up to High Elven and the goods yard. So that's the next piece of work to be done, and I hope by the time I see you next time I will be able to let you know how I'm going to do that section. But if you've got any ideas, of course, you're always welcome to let me have them. Well, here we are. It's actually a few days later. This took much less time to put together than I feared. I thought it was going to be really very, very difficult. But the work in building the frames accurately and accurately measuring the floors and accurately cutting out the tabs so everything just sort of slotted together made life much, much easier once I got everything and started putting things together. The Plastruct stairs and railings worked really well. They fitted together and the plastic weld very quickly put them together. I was amazed how easy it all was. It really didn't take me very long to do, but I'm really pleased with the result. I've put a £1 coin in. I always forget to try and put something in to give an idea of scale. I've cut out the rear wall now onto which this sits, because now that I've got that I could be sure that everything lined up as it needed to, and if I put the wall in, that's how it will sit on the back of the hotel, and as you can see, everything lines up. I'm thinking about how I'm going to build the doors. Ideally, I would like the doors to be flush, so I may use the card cutouts and then paint them black and reinsert them. See how that looks, because I think because they're so narrow, those doors, trying to put a frame around those might just look odd. I do have some very thin strip styrene that I can use to make the door frames, but it may just look better to go with a flush black door. That may just look right. So, but I've got some thinking to do on that. So the next piece of work, which I'll come on to in the next video, or more of it in the next video, is to get on with doing the window frames. I've got 66 window frames that need to be built. I've started building some. If I bring the model in just very quickly, I've started building some. So I've built so far, I think, 4 of the ones that will go eventually here. Those sit on the front there, and then in the big windows that sit below, I've so far built 7 of the 8 that go on here. If I get it the right way around, that's the right way around. Those sit on over the front of those windows, remembering that these are going to be painted a dark green. So I've got another 2 of this style window to be done, and another 1 of this, and that will complete those sides and the start here. And then I've got various other types of windows, another 53 that will need to be built after that, which will complete the bedroom windows on the sides here, the corridor windows, and then a few special size windows for offices and the kitchen. This is a very tedious job, I have to tell you, so I'm not looking forward to doing that. Though the fact that I have my vernier caliper, which I've shown before, which is here, this has been invaluable for working at these kinds of tolerances, and actually was probably instrumental in me being able to cut accurately the cuts for the fire escape. But I'm really pleased with the fire escape. I think that is going to look pretty good. I don't know whether this will stand up. It probably will refuse to do so now. I managed to do it once before. But that is pretty much, if I move you up a little. So that's what it's going to look like on the back, and I'm quite pleased with that. This will be painted black. I'm going to go and do that, and so for the next video that will have been painted by then. But I am pretty close now, I think. I've got to get the windows done because they need to be painted up, to being able to start assembling the back and putting the lighting in. And once we've done that, I think we then need to have to construct the roof. And as I say, I've got an idea for that, but I need to think about that a bit more before revealing all. So that pretty much completes the work on the hotel for this video. And in the next video, I'll show you where I've got to in making my windows and starting, I hope, to construct the back and the design of the roof. Well, that's about it for this edition of Elvenhome. I hope you enjoyed the build of the fire escape. I had great fun making the fire escape. I'm really pleased with the outcome. And also for those of you who I've been teasing with getting on with Elvenhome, with High Elven, you can now see that is indeed the prospect. So I'll be thinking a bit about that, and hopefully, as I said in the next video, can talk a bit more about how I'm actually going to go about doing the building. But as I said, and as I always say, if you have any comments which you think you would like to give, and any views you'd like to express, please do. I really enjoy getting the comments. They've been enormously helpful as I've developed the layout. If you've liked the video, please give it the thumbs up. That's very helpful. And of course, if you're not a subscriber, please do consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you know when I'm uploading, so you can see the development both of the hotel and the layout as a whole. But until I speak to you again in about a fortnight's time, that's bye-bye from me. Bye-bye.